year, we're gonna start a little bit from what we just came from with the recognition of and the naming of the track at the high school, the Burl Tolly track. And I just want to turn the wonderful event we had for this time here to Superintendent to shout out.
Thank you, President Bluth. We had a wonderful event at the high school previous to this meeting. We started at about 3:15. We were hosting a home track meet, and in a previous meeting, the board approved naming the track at Wright Tree Stadium after the late beloved Burl Tolly, who was a coach and teacher at Wasatch High for many decades. We had a wonderful event. For those of you that weren't able to make it, I just want to report that it was a lot of fun. It was very meaningful to many people, not only the family, very meaningful to the family, but to many others. I even saw a few old timers in the stands, and it was fun to have them there. For those of you that don't know, Burl Tolly was a coach and teacher at Wasatch High. A few of us in the room, several of us in the room that went to Wasatch High back in the 80s, and if you were there in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, you know the three men that their names now reside on the facility at Wasatch High, and that's Ron Tree, that's Dan Wright. Dan Wright actually coached Ron Tree. Dan Wright was a coach when I was an elementary age student here in the district. Coached my older brothers, and now we've added to Wright Tree Stadium. We've now added Burl Tolly's name to the track itself, and a little bit about Coach Tolly and some of the really remarkable things that he accomplished. He's already a member of the Wasatch High Hall of Fame. He was one of the first to go into it. But he, as far as a single sport goes, next to wrestling, the next sport at Wasatch that has the most state championships is girls track. And you can see it on the back of some of these t-shirts, but I believe that he won 7 state championships as a girls track coach. He won, maybe that was 6, but I'd have to look at somebody's shirt. But just to keep it in summary form here, he also won a basketball state championship, and he won a cross country state championship. So we were trying before the ceremony, we were trying to do a little research with the High School Activities Association, and so far the guy that's kind of that has all that in his brain and works with that area down at the High School Activities told us they have no one on record that has won 3 championships, that has won a championship in 3 different sports. They think maybe before some of the records were kept that there might be a guy or 2 out there. But that's what they've told us thus far. And so for Burl Tolly to be by himself in that regard is pretty remarkable. We in my day, and Corey Holmes, a board member, was approached by the Tolly family, rightfully so, and Corey brought it to the board and to us here at the district, and I thought it was just a very fitting ceremony today. Burl's wife, Colleen, was also a teacher for many years in this district, and she actually taught, I think, right here in this classroom at the Old North School. And I think it's worth noting, if we take just a minute, this painting right here with the Pledge of Allegiance, that is a Robert Duncan painting, and he came to her classroom, and that's a snapshot of Colleen's classroom one day. She can tell you the name of every student in the picture, and we didn't really know this. The night she came here to be approved, to see the track name be approved by the board, she told us about it. And we have had her write a summary and send it to us, and we're gonna make sure we enter that into the record. So anyway, we believe that as the community grows and lots of folks continue to move here to our valley, and we become a little larger and do things on a larger scale, and we're soon to, in the upcoming years, to open a second high school, and we really believe that having these three great coaches named on a facility that will stand for years after all of us are gone is a real fitting tribute to them and to that era of Wasatch High and Wasatch athletics. So very fitting, wonderful to be a part of it, and it's kind of a humbling part of our history. It was very meaningful to a lot of people. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. You know, that's my era as well. Verl was my driver's ed teacher. He made me do a bug collection. You know, the guy did a lot for me as well. So it's a special time to remember back to those years, and I'm so grateful we've been able to recognize those men and what they did, and their families for that matter. So let's move on, if we could, to the short amount of time we have here. Let's if we could, we're happy to have members of the council with us tonight, and to talk and further this discussion on what you guys are planning and hoping, and how we can be involved. So let's turn the time to you guys.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, board. We really appreciate you giving us your valuable time. I know it is valuable, and this board is so important. We want this to be a discussion. It's not a lecture. It's not a classroom. I think you know a lot about what we're going to discuss, but you feel free to interrupt, to just raise your hand, to say, "Wait a second, I don't get that," or is this what you're saying? So this is important to Heber City. For the record, I'll just tell you, I know you're recording this, so my name's Mike Johnston. I know all of you now. I came here as a 27-year-old single dude in 1993, and I'm still here. I got married, we built a house, to live in the same house. I couldn't afford it now, but we got it built in '99, and we raised 3 kids here in this school district. They all went to J.R. Smith, they went to Rocky Mountain, and they went to Wasatch High, and they excelled and thrived, and I'm forever grateful to the school district, because when I came in '93, it was kind of struggling, and I came from a bigger city, and it just, in 30 years, it has rocketed forward to be one of the best in the state, and I recognize that, and my kids are the recipients of fabulous teachers, fabulous facilities, fabulous activities and options, and so I want to say that. I didn't grow up here, but they did. And Aaron, I think you did grow up here. This is Aaron Cheatwood.
Yeah.
You can introduce yourself.
Yeah, Aaron Cheatwood. I moved here in 1990, so slightly earlier, and I was a little younger when I moved here.
He's the baby of the bunch.
I got to do all my years at Midway Elementary, and for at least the elementary, and then came up through the school here. Graduated from Wasatch in 2002, and I've got 3 kids in the school district now, and my wife works as an aide at Old Mill Elementary too. So a little bit attached to the school district. Had a pretty fantastic experience here. It was a great place to go to school.
I'll give you a memory. I joined the Rotary Club years ago, and the honors night was, we would haul chairs and tables from the old Heber East Stake Center to the old gym where, Panda is now, and set them up, and there were like 70 kids, maybe 80. And now we're hitting 300, and that's your top 10% of the high school. So things have changed in 30 years, and it takes looking to the future, and it takes investing and planning ahead, and that's what we do as a city, and that's what you guys are doing. I do recognize that there have been some past characters in city council and on the school board. I mean, we get to change up every 2 years, right? And but I can tell you, the last couple councils, at least for the last 4 years, we have been solidly 100% on your side and helping. What your success is our success as a city, and our kids' success. So I want to just kind of share a few things. Thank you, Stacy. One of the biggest successes I think that you have done, that we as a city has tried our best to facilitate, has been the annexation of this property and getting this high school permitted. I know there was some contention before this happened, but those on the council now and previously got behind this annexation very quickly and did everything we could to move it forward, even with a protest that came before the county. We also solidly behind the annexation for the MTech campus. We think this is a perfect spot. I certainly do, as an engineer. We're solidly worrying about the housing needs of teachers and public employees. You can see here just a list, the very bottom right, 701.8. That is the number of deed-restricted affordable housing units at 60% area median income or 80% area median income that we have required just in the last 2 years as we have annexed into the North Village and the Upper Jordanelle. These are deed restricted, and priority is to public employees, meaning 3 groups: city employees, which isn't very many, county employees, which is a few more, and school district employees, which is a lot more. So this is something that's important to us, and I know it's extremely important to you. This is a picture of Sawmill. I don't know if you know this, but a couple years ago, I think Paul was at 3 now. The city council realized there's a lot of growth here in this Sawmill area, about 800 students. We're using your numbers. And so we went back to the developer and said, we need a 10-acre school site here. Can we open up your MDA, your Master Development Agreement, and find, this is where we think it should be. You can see that purple thing right in the middle on Sawmill Boulevard and the road that goes out to the highway. Will you be willing to backtrack and work with us? And they'd already started Sawmill. All of Brookside was done, all that stuff on the top left. And he said yes. And so I approached Paul and said, Paul, here's an idea we have. And Paul said, let's do it. And so we redid the whole MDA. We moved their density, all the units they had there. Now that's why you see a lot more smaller units, townhomes. But he wasn't going to give up density, but he gave up that 10-acre site for you guys. And that was, Paul, I remember that was a substantially discounted rate.
It was, the formula ended up with 50%
of the value.
Yeah.
So that's something else we as a city spent a lot of time pushing this developer to undo what had been approved before us and reapprove something better.
The board was highly involved in that.
Yeah.
Of course.
We are a great supporter of CAPS at the city, the Center for Advanced Professional Studies. All my kids have gone through CAPS. I love CAPS. One of the CAPS ideas that came about 4 or 5 years ago when it first started was the splash pad, which now it's more of a water feature. It's not a recreational feature, but these kids, I think their names are under there. Can't see them. Ben, and they actually, this was their idea that they brought to the city, and we adopted it, and they actually raised the first $50,000 of donations for this, which then we as a city matched with $100,000 I keep the chamber. Thank you, Tom. I keep looking at Dallin. The chamber came up with $50,000. So this is I think you see this coming together. It's beautiful. It's an aesthetic improvement on the center square of this valley, center square of Heber City. So again, this came out of CAPS and us working with CAPS. We are really thrilled that we can work with a band, the music department. We have, as you know, there's a pep rally every year at the last market on Main, the last farmers market in August. Here's some pictures of the pep rally and the marching band. We're doing this every year. We've been coordinating with the arts at the high school, the arts department on, in fact, this is just coming up, I think, in a couple weeks painting these snowplow blades every year, and we give prizes out and money to whatever they're chosen, they're judged. So these are really fun things. We're also just starting this fall to work with arts kids to start painting our electrical boxes in downtown. Make them and pay for that. Fund that to them to do it. So I just want to share this, that we really have been trying the last 4 years to really be solidly partners with you, and you're doing what you do, and we're trying to support that. We're going to jump to now why we're here and the downtown transformation. Aaron, I'm going to let you kind of take that over, and if you have questions, again, just stop us.
Yeah, we'd much rather come away with your thoughts and understanding and where you're at, and help us to understand what questions we can answer and what more information we can give, not just for what's sitting in this room, but also because we get to point to this meeting to the public and help to explain what questions have been asked and answered. Thanks, Mike. I'm glad to see all the cool partnerships, frankly, with the school and with the school district. The reason we're here is to talk about something that came out of the Envision Central Heber process. This was something that came before my time on the council, frankly, right? I'm here to talk about it because it's something I'm excited about. But this was all time that came before. For those that aren't familiar, the city held a lot of meetings to talk to the public about what the public wanted Heber to look like in the future. Not just now, not just in the next couple of years, but all the way out to 2050. The bigger ones called Envision 2050. And this Envision Central Heber came out of that, and you can see this is just an overlay of the map of Heber right now, and some of these areas that people thought could look different. Main Street could look different than it looks now. The Arts and Recreation District could look different than it looks now. And we want to show you this. I love that you got that picture. That one wasn't in my packet. It was fantastic. Go back one so we can see that. Awesome. So this is the current, right? So this is, we're at the park basically, looking straight down. You can see Daughter of the Utah Pioneers on the right. If you look closely, that little white building sticking up on the next block is where my business is, in the Sorensen Insurance Plaza, or Main Street Plaza, he calls it. And this is what we're familiar with, but click the little button. There you go. This is the kind of thing we could see in the future. Don't get too hung up on the pools on the roof. That's not going to happen. But everybody gets hung up on the pools. But these are just different buildings. You notice I just pointed out that building, Sorensen Insurance. It looks wildly different in this kind of a view. What we think can happen, what the citizens said through Envision process, Envision Central, and Envision 2050 is that they wanted a different kind of process and a different kind of feel downtown, a destination that would bring not only tourism, but people that live here to downtown to recreate, to shop, and to do things that they right now can't do in the way that they want to. That's what we heard through that process. We're talking about the CRA, and this map here, this is a really hard one to see on this side, but let me just kind of show you where we're at. So that kind of the yellow section at the bottom is the Arts and Tourism District. On the right-hand side, you can see the airport kind of goes off to the right, diagonal downward. So we're looking at Main Street with north on our left, south on the right. And the reason we're talking about the CRA tonight, or this map tonight, is you can kind of see there's about a 2-block east and west of Main, really solid section that's part of the CRA zone that we're talking about. The reason we're talking about that specific area is because this is an area where we think there's an opportunity to increase the tax base. There's an opportunity to help facilitate redevelopment in a way that causes things to come into that area that are really exciting for this community and that change what we currently have access to, right? So as we look at that, this slide's kind of interesting. If you look at the total school district tax base, the monies you all get back from the current property taxes, that $97 million, we're looking at this downtown area. It's $3.8 million of that.
This everything in yellow.
Yeah, everything in yellow. Yeah, 4% basically of all of the.
Back to that last slide.
Yes, sir. 4%.
Where does the new high school sit in that?
So it's kind of that little kick-out yellow spot that sticks. Yeah, right there.
So it's
Yeah.
not in the CRA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why.
And it has
Yeah,
no
that's
tax
what-
value anyway.
Yeah. So the reason we want to bring to this is, the county is way bigger than we think about when we think about just Heber. This yellow area, and is there any other questions about the map before we go to the next one? Okay, cool. So this little yellow area, it's about 4% of the total Wasatch County tax base in this little area, in the yellow area. The reason that's important is because a lot of that stuff, and we'll see it, and we'll talk about it here in a second, not yet, is things that potentially don't change a whole lot. If you look at the map and you kind of think about 2 blocks east and west of Main, there's not a lot of new growth happening. There's definitely not a lot of new residential. There's not high density residential coming in. Effectively for the school board, this is an area that isn't increasing the school board's workload much, but it's also not increasing the tax base for the school board much. We think there's an opportunity to increase the tax base without increasing the workload, to bring more revenue and more tax dollars in without bringing more student headcount, because that's not the type of redevelopment that we envision or that we think is going to happen in these downtown zones specifically. If you go to the next one down. The way that the, I think this one is yours, but I'll take it.
All right, I missed it.
That's all right.
Right there.
Yeah, there we go. You know what? Go back one if it does go back one. There you go. Cool. So this is just a high level. I think Mike hasn't talked about it. I'll talk about it real quick. The way that a CRA works, there's been a lot of questions and a lot of misinformation on this, but the way that the CRA works is that blue line at the bottom is your existing tax base in this area. Again, it's about 4%, a little under 4% of the total Wasatch County tax base right now. The way that the CRA would work if it was approved is you would keep that. The current value doesn't go away. It doesn't come to the city. It doesn't change. It comes to the school district. It doesn't change at all. As a CRA, if the CRA went into effect, as the valuations of those properties in that zone grow, and they continue to make incremental increases, the incremental increase is what would be split. And the way that we can think about that, imagine it's, take a property, hypothetical here, worth $100,000. That $100,000 doesn't go away. If it goes up in value to $110,000, that $10,000 then starts splitting. And it splits in a 25-75 for the next 20 years, at which point after 20 years, that entire new increment goes back to the school board. The idea here is, if you go to the next one, the idea here is that if it does what we think it's going to do, if we can reinvest in a way that causes this downtown area to really bloom, to become worth a lot more, and those tax values to go up, it makes really good sense after 20 years for sure, and it makes good sense even in that 20-year build-up period, because that growth is something that we don't think is going to happen otherwise. And we have some proof about why we think that. The reality too is, if it doesn't work, if we're wrong, if the city invests and we buy up some parking, and we change some infrastructure, and we do some things to make to incentivize downtown revitalization, and it doesn't happen, there's no increment, there's no split, there's no money from the school district. Nothing changes. That base stays the same. Only changes if there's an increment. It's growth, it says up there 25%. Otherwise, it doesn't occur. We think that there's pretty good proof of concept about it not occurring. We're going to show you a map here in a second. It shows kind of the length and age of these properties.
What's magical about the 20 years?
It's just, I think 20 years is the max that it could be, if I'm right.
It could be 20, no, it could be 25. We have chosen 20.
10 or 15?
It's not long enough to get things going.
But it can be.
It can be.
Yeah, and all these numbers are negotiable. And we want it to be stuck on something.
Absolutely. So generally, it's 20% for 25 years. We're pulling down the 25% share for only 20 years. Most of that came from discussion with the board or members of the board and the county council, because it's a little bit new to, maybe it is all new to all of us. I haven't ever done a CRA, so it's new to me too. And I think it's new to you. So, but it could be anything.
Yeah, but
It
that's
could
just
be-
a number that.
it could be
that
anything,
works
yeah.
For the time
Works
period
for
that you're
everybody.
trying to get them.
So we'll show some numbers. Zion, so we basically, all this is coming from Zion's public finance consultants, showing us what other cities have done.
Yeah, Mayor has.
If I
Mayor
may.
has a comment.
If I may, there's plans in this district to perhaps bond in the future for parking or other road improvements and such, and bonds usually have that 20-year payoff schedule, so that's kind of one reason why Zion's Bank would say, hey, you need the partners to come in for, if you bond, for that bond term length.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, in fact, that's how it's done, is we will bond. because you want to turbo boost the investment up front. You don't want to wait every year, just a little incremental. We will bond, and the bonds are paid back by the growth in property tax because of the investment from the monies of the bond. Well, let me give you an example. It's a simple example, but I thought a lot about this. Any of you can do this. You're looking ahead to your financial future, and you say, you know what? We need some income in 20 years when we retire. And you go to the bank and you get a loan and you buy a rental property. Now you're not paying for that rental property with your income. Your income stays the same. You're paying for that loan. You're paying that loan off with the rent coming off the rental property. And in 20 years, the rent has paid off the loan. And in 20 years, suddenly your income now jumps because you're not paying off the loan, but you still have the income. And so you've gone from, we make $5,000 a month and our income as our job, and that stays the same. And in fact, that'll go up, right? And your base will actually change too as you go through truth and taxation. That goes to the base. It doesn't go to the CRA. Your truth and taxations will go to the base. So inflation's accounted for. The CRA is not benefiting from inflation or your truth and taxation. It's only benefiting from what the investment in public infrastructure can create. And I'm going to give you two good examples. If you're a really smart investor, you buy a piece of rental property that kicks off $2,500 a month, and your loan's only $2,000. Now you have a little bit of income. And that's what the 25% is. That is additional income to you as a school district. You're getting the base, and you're getting a portion. That's what you share, either 20 or 25 or 15. You share that. So you're still going to go up. And we're pretty confident, looking at the numbers, that closely matches the growth of Heber City over the past 20 years. So that's the do nothing. Is do nothing, and you're going to keep your base, and you're going to slowly grow. And that's also what the CRA gives you. You keep your base, you slowly grow. But in 20 years, it's all done. Loans are paid off, the investments are made, and that new taxable amount is much bigger. So it is a long-term investment for you. Here's an example. This is the new Smith's Marketplace. Believe it or not, this has been talked about since 2005. Almost 20 years ago, the Ritchie Group and Millstream bought this property, talked to the city about zoning, and talked about Smith's Marketplace. It has taken 20 years to get them here. So for 20 years, there's been an agriculture field. And you know how much that property tax that's thrown off. This actually almost didn't happen last year. You know why? Because Smith said, you know what, we have lots of places to put our money, and we're not going to pull a building permit until we are assured that Heber City, that you get the highway frontage completed, the traffic light installed, and all the improvements on our going up to the cemetery done. If you can commit to that, then we'll come. And then we were 2 weeks away from them just saying, okay, not enough time, we're done. I mean, we had a special city council meeting to move this through. We invested, as a city, $1.6 million to finish those public infrastructure projects. That didn't go to Smith's, that went to our public infrastructure. Some people say you gave Smith's a tax break. No, we didn't. What did that get us in return? A $40 million investment. It's actually just over $40 million to build that store in that parking lot, which right now, and our tax rate is 0.94%. So every year, Smith's is now going to kick off $400,000 of increased rate, and 68% of that goes to the school district. The 1.6 is that's an example of million is an example of what the CRA does to attract new investment like this. Say there's a Marriott that wants to come. They say, well, we need a water system that's much, water supply line that's much bigger than what's in the road now. We need parking, public parking. There's things that they're going to say we need, and that's what we can use CRA money for, is to boost that investment. It only takes a couple of $40 million investments to hit what Zions Bank has told us. $154 million is what we're expecting over 20 years, which is a very conservative number, we think. So
So
This is,
I'm sure you're gonna get to this, but I think that's really important for us to hear, about what this money's being spent on. Specifically, infrastructure versus, is there, that's a question that gets asked all the time.
Yeah.
Is this money, does it end up in the hands of a developer?
nope,
Who makes that decision?
we do as a CRA board.
And who can be on that CRA board?
So we are, the city council is also the CRA board, but I'll show you at the end, we are forming 2 advisory boards to figure out what investments we're gonna put this money into. And you're on that board, you will be on that board.
So legally, can school board representatives, there's so much we would have to negotiate, even if in the possibility, can school board members sit on the CRA board legally?
I don't know the answer, but we'll find out.
Okay.
Jared?
I bet it's possible.
Jared,
Council?
Saying yes.
he's saying
I think it's possible.
Okay.
As long as you don't get paid.
So as long as we don't get paid, the board can
We're
have
not paid.
The board
You're in the wrong
can be,
business.
school board members
Yeah, so
can
do
be
we.
added as voting members of the actual board. Okay.
Yeah, that would make sense. That's a great ad, and I have nothing, there's nothing wrong with that.
So my point was the scenario you described with Smith's would be the same throughout. It would be investment from the public money would be invested in infrastructure,
Public infrastructure.
which would then entice developers to maybe tear down some buildings and build some new ones or refurbish some and bring on this additional, some of the additional concept we see on your concept.
So one of the biggest, exactly right, Paul, one of the biggest problems with our downtown is everybody has to have their building and they have to have on-site parking. And when you drive to the bank and then you get in your car and you drive to the store and then you get in your car and you drive to the title company and then you drive to the ice cream store, you park in all their parking lots. It's a terrible way to run a downtown and it doesn't work. What we need is more intense development of commercial activity, which means more property tax value, more market value, which is more property tax. And we need less parking, but we need it centralized. We need what Park City has done, is parking structures. And when you go to Park City, you don't park on Main Street. You go, you park in their central parking lot, you might even pay $2. And then you walk up and down Main Street, right, all night. You shop, you look at stuff, you go to the restaurant. That's what we need to be. Parking land and parking structures are public infrastructure that would turbo boost our downtown.
So you may say we're gonna build some parking to try to attract more commercial development in a
Yes,
different way.
exactly.
And the city would pay for all of the parking, or would you?
The CRA will bond for it. Doesn't mean parking's always free, it doesn't mean developers don't have to participate.
Okay, but you'd participate with the developer in building additional parking.
Yes.
Or where they're trying to.
It's public parking,
Yes.
not private.
Right.
I mean, Tom Stone's a great example. He's a great businessman. He's got a great building on Center in Maine. You all know it, right? The bank block.
Tate building.
The tape building. And he's got the tape building. I'm sorry, Tom, but people park in that parking lot all the time anyway, right?
I know.
And you plow it and you pay for it because it's a big parking lot. The more we can publicize parking as an example and let people build, let Tom build something on that. Asphalt doesn't pay any taxes, doesn't pay sales tax, doesn't pay anything. It's just a parking lot. Well, the more we can redevelop downtown, the stronger our economy is, and the less you have to depend on citizens' property taxes. You can depend more on business property taxes. And you see right now, 4% in that whole entire yellow area is insignificant. It needs to be higher. You know who's paying property taxes? Tuhey, Victory Ranch, Red Ledges, Wolf Creek Ranches. That's where the major property tax sources are coming from.
So understand the CRA board is making the final decisions. What would be the initial sort of, talk about parking structure, what are the other projects that you'd be looking at first?
Well, we want to redevelop downtown because of what's coming up the hill, the whole minor project. We can't lose our downtown. We have to redevelop our downtown to keep our economy here in this valley strong. So parking is a big one. We are looking to purchase, it's not a secret, the Heber Light and Power Administration Building and the fire station next to it. right on Midway Lane. And those are key parcels that we want to purchase, and then we want to put a parking structure on the Heber Light and Power right in the middle of the block, and we want to find a development that would be significant where the fire station is. And there's all these little, I'm going to show you pictures in a second.
Before we get to the phases.
This kind of stuff is what we have now. You know, it is what we got. Go ahead.
Before we get to the phases of development, because that's a conversation we need to have.
I know, we're not going to tear down Chicks.
I know, what happens to those?
But I will tell you, Chicks throws off. This is why you get only 4% of your revenue, your tax revenue, from the entire
What
downtown.
happens to Chicks?
Well, either it's renovated and around it and it's saved, or it will go away someday. I mean, I don't own Chicks, so I don't get to dictate
The owner
it.
will still decide that.
But you're not trying to force anybody out.
We won't. No, that's.
You're gonna work in some parameters, and you're hoping those parameters.
Yeah, and I know you want to save the Ace Hardware maybe, or the Napa, and they are old buildings. And
I think an example of
Chitaris,
Mike, is the Francis Smith building. It's kind of what you did with that, if you recall. It was
yeah.
kind
Well,
of sitting like that with the dry
we're going to point out Tom Stone's building.
and open that up to somebody to come in and did a heck of a job
Yeah,
making it look
exactly.
exactly.
It encourages that. That's how private investment make private decisions, but they do that based on what's going on around them.
And right now, the Timberline's a great example. That thing has just sat there because anybody that comes in has to think about how do they build a business on that lot, which is a weird shape, and still have parking that exists. They could think
Front
about
of the
that differently
highway.
if the parking was across the street or in a different public spot.
So the big question I'm just gonna throw it out right now is, you have the Main Street issue with the semis and the traffic, so
Boy, we do.
tell me how that's gonna work into this?
It will be gone within by the Olympics. It really will. I do think. Now maybe there's a 5 or 10% chance, no, but it's intolerable. It can't
So
continue.
how does this work with Main Street?
They have to have
Sit
flooding.
months.
You know what? I'm going to sit a very articulate.
So Sid Ostergaard, City Council. So I do this as a living. I work with a guy by the name of Roger Brooks. We go around to communities like Heber, and he's coming back to reevaluate how to make it a place. Right now, what is Heber meaning? Where do you go in Heber to call it the downtown? Probably back in the day, it was a lot more vibrant. Right now, what we're trying to do is do something here that people want to come, live, work, and play. Main Street is a big issue, and when we're going through the Heber Central discussions, right now we can't control Main right now. So that's why, if you dive into those plans, we took things off of Main and brought it into between Main and First West, and created a pedestrian alley that flanks or between the city park and Civic Park. Something like, one more. So, again, we can't control Maine just yet, but hopefully
Main's on
in the
the right.
future, I'm gonna bet, Mike, we're gonna have a bet on for dinner if, by the Olympics it happens, but we can't control that. So what we're gonna try to control is everything that we can.
So your focus is shifting it
For now.
to that?
For now, but we will embrace Main
You
Street.
can see the improvements on Main Street. Actually,
Yeah,
see the
we
center
will embrace Main
landscaping
Street
and-
when it happens.
But the only way that will work is if that bike house.
That's exactly true.
goes through.
But you're focused on off of Main.
Well, we're focused on downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
downtown,
I mean,
both sides.
Yeah,
The
so
only
phase
reason-
1, phase 2, phase 3.
Yeah. I would say the only reason we will not get a reroute of Highway 40 is if we fight it.
Yeah, something, Yvonne Barney, Heber City Council. I think also with Roger Brooks, I also sit on that committee as well. And one of the discussions that has been shared and thought is that with the 100 West, there's also a way to shift the focus from Main Street. We are dealing with Main Street being that difficult situation where we want to change the situation, but we need UDOT, we need that as a federal highway. There's so many other things that are attached to Main Street. And so part of the focus that was discussed in that meeting was also considering potential of shifting off on 100 West and also utilizing, which we're doing with Van Street, Also, if you've ever been to Steamboat Springs, a lot of their businesses they have their cafes on the rooftop. They do a lot of rooftop situation because they also have Highway 40 going through that area. So it's just a matter of thinking outside the box and recognizing that we do need to have parking structures as well, and utilizing the CRA to help us move those ideas forward.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Is that what Ogden did?
Very well said,
Ogden
Steve.
did a CRA, correct?
Let me.
That's how they built their.
There's RDAs, CRAs.
Yeah.
so on and
Mary
so
Ann,
forth.
RDA and CRA, RDA is just
Yeah.
the old acronym.
The old acronym,
I
but
just-
that's how Ogden.
I'm gonna give you the list right now in Utah. Murray, Moab, Mill Creek, Logan, Ogden, Park City, Bountiful, Provo, Sandy, South Salt Lake, North Salt Lake, Draper, West Valley, Centerville, Bluffdale, Tooele, Vineyard, Taylorsville, Woods Cross, American Fork, and more. This is the way cities turbo boost areas that are in decline or that need to be revitalized. This is the way it's done, and very successfully.
So my big question is, it's, the feedback that I've been getting from some people in the community is, you're considering using money you get for public education,
I've heard that,
right?
and it's
We've
just
all heard that. So
it's wrong.
How, it's wrong, okay, how do you convey that to the
So
community? And
I know.
would love the
I guess
mayor's
that's going to be
input.
our job to help.
I would love the mayor's input on this as well, on how you convey that message to, how you explain to the community that we're using your tax money that goes to public education to fund this.
Obviously, that is huge for you. You need every single penny, and so does our city, right? We have a very small budget
Well, it's
compared
just-
to you. So it is that
Explaining
matter
to
of
them.
investment, number one, but number two, you've got to look at the project list, and I'm sure they'll get to it pretty soon. But when you look at this project list that the city's bringing to you and the amounts to spend on that project list, you've got to see for yourselves if you think that project list will create the investment that Mike and Aaron are talking about to revitalize the downtown. Okay, again, commercial is not what it used to be, right? People can sell online. It used to be that Main Street was our main commercial core, our main sales tax generator. Now, when you look at the sales tax map around the county, there's a lot of big sales tax generators in homes, right? Online businesses and such. We don't want to lose our commercial core. We don't want our downtown to become this neglected, blighted area, right? So as a city, we want to retain the face of Heber. We want to reinvest and make sure that our businesses have plenty of support, tax base, ability to sell and be able to attract not only locals, but tourists too, right? We know the Olympics is coming, so we're looking at it that way. But you need to decide yourself. We show you the project list. Do you think this will help the downtown? We think it will. So we really appreciate your help with this. It's just that our budget is not your budget.
So are you gonna help us convey that to the community?
Well, there is a 10% requirement in the CRA for low-income housing, which could even, if you want to negotiate this, I'll add 10% if you can go to the school district.
I mean, are you gonna help
So-
us in communicating with the community
Of
why
course
We
we
can
Yes.
absolutely commit to spending our time and money even on your website, but posting what this really is.
Yes.
Because what it is, think of it this way, the school district, 68% of all property tax revenues goes to the school district. Heber City gets 8%. So this is an investment, honestly, for you that we're making. You get multiples of, 8.5 times what we're gonna get back financially. Now, we're getting other things back, which is a save to downtown. But financially, the school district will get back 8 times what we're getting back, because you're 68%, we're 8.
And one of the ways that I've answered this question, because I've had the same question a lot of times, is we're talking about supercharging growth in an area that, and go to the next slide just for right now, we'll come back. That, as you look at these colors, you're not seeing a lot of green. Green is new growth.
Green is new from
New-
70s.
New investment. You see a lot of non-new in these areas. We're talking about supercharging an area that otherwise isn't projected to grow super quickly.
It ain't gonna change.
And what we're looking to do is, and the way I'm answering this question when people ask me is, if we're wrong and it doesn't work, the school district doesn't spend any money. But if we're right, and it supercharges it, meaning that if it takes that normal growth curve and ramps it up, the 25% is more than you would have gotten doing nothing. And then at the end of the 20 years, you get all of it, which is, like Mike mentioned, it's big enough and it's good enough that some of these cities he just listed continually renew their CRAs. They renew it. They start another 20 years. They do it more. Which one was it this morning? Bountiful, I think?
Bountiful.
They renew it because it's worked so well and it's revamped and revitalized so well that it's increased that tax base. I love this example. This was not a CRA. It wasn't CRA. But you can see on the left versus the right, the work that was put into this building by Tom changed the value of this building so much that the school district's cut, not the cities, the school district's cut of the tax revenues pre-post, right, increased $22,000 a year. Just one building. Imagine this kind of thing happening with the Timberline building. And I use the Timberline building because it's across the street from me. My office faces the Timberline building. I look at it every day. It's just sitting there. And I know I should sit in there because I don't know what I would do. If I bought it, I don't know what I'd do with it. It's a weird building. But if I didn't have to worry about parking, if there was a downtown where people were walking around, if this is a spot where they could come and they could shop differently, it could be revitalized very quickly if they didn't have to worry about these public infrastructure things.
So Kim, you can tell the public, and we will tell this, the school district is not writing a check for a single dollar. You're not giving up anything that you already have. And you're taking no risk. The city is taking the loan out and the risk. And we have to pay that back. You don't. It's not on you. It's on us to make it work, to grow the economy of the downtown, and that growth pays back the CRA monies. Not the school district. It is a risk-free investment for you, because we're doing it.
And again, if it
Does
doesn't
that
work, no money comes
Well, and, yeah, so to clarify, like that base, we get that base no matter what.
doesn't
Yeah, I
change.
understand.
And all your truth in taxation increases on it.
I just think it's communication. And
Absolutely.
It is.
How we
Because-
communicate to the public what this really is.
Wait, isn't
I
that the-
understand it. We've been talking about this for 3 years.
Yeah.
I get that, but it's communicating to the public what this is.
A perfect
And
example.
everybody has to be involved in communicating the message.
It is so hard. I had two neighbors that had things rallying on me last year about how the school district was increasing their property tax. And I said, by 49%, I said, you go look at your property tax from 22 and 23. You're paying less. No, I'm not. Go look, Larry. He called me up and says, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking, but I've just been reading that all these.
And that's the message we've been.
I know, but no one.
And that's the fight we've dealt with. So you guys got to understand too what
Yeah.
we've been through here.
I get it. I know.
It hasn't
So-
been a lot of fun to live in this message.
So Aaron will help.
Well, here's the thing. I'm brand new, right? I was telling Cam earlier, this week's been kind of rough. This meeting's coming up, and a lot of people know me, and a lot of people have reached out with not super kind words. And the reality is, I just want to keep saying, if you'll just listen and read about it, you'll understand it. But here's the thing, it's not real yet. So we can't be putting a ton of PIO dollars and advertising on this because it's not real. We don't have anything signed yet. We have the Central Utah Water on board. We talked to the county. The county largely said, in so many words, go talk to the school district first. And so we're here talking to you. We hope that if
And
we
there's
get
still
this,
so many what ifs because we
there's
still
a lot
don't know
of
what UDOT's going to
but
do.
the second we can come to some kind of agreement, holy crap, will we ever start explaining this better? Because then it's real. It's something that can, hey, when you see this thing redeveloping, here's a sign that explains how. This is how the dollars are being used. This is the group. These are the different groups we're going to cover in a second. But these are the advisory councils that are saying how we want to spend this. This is the kind of stuff that's where these funds are going.
So let's commit. We will commit
We will
to
definitely
put a
help
lot of
communicate.
effort into publicity, in the wave, on the radio, on the website. We will put together something that people can read. It'll be very factual and simple.
Hey, and I love what you have done to come in and to present what you guys have helped us do, and that has helped so much with this messaging with our new high school. We need to continue that message, and I think just to speak for Kim too, that's what we want. We want to have this unified that we're all in it together more than
Absolutely.
us.
We got our guy right here, Ryan Bonnell. We're going to start on these things because we have to simply explain it.
Okay, Yvonne.
I think another way to approach this too is to ask the citizens, are you happy with the downtown area? I'm sure some people will say it's fine the way it is, but regardless of how we remember it used to be, for those of us who've been here for years, and I think that's probably where a majority of the concern is coming from, is that older population. Those of us who've been here, we look at this as, wow, we are bleeding through the nose, if you will, on property taxes and so many other issues. And when they hear things like this, it's a fear.
Yep.
There's this concern, this sudden dread of, now how will I pay for this? And I think that the way that Mike and Aaron and Matt in the past have shared this is that you're not going to be bleeding. I mean, this is already happening. We are at a point now where we're getting to the apex, if you will, of the top of this hill, hopefully. I'm being hopeful here, maybe thinking very positive, but hopefully we're at the apex of this tax situation where we're constantly feeling like we've got more and more and more coming in. And telling the citizens, this is something that benefits the whole community, especially the older section, if you will. Do we really want to see our downtown area fall apart, continue to lose business, continue to have people say, wow, there's nothing to do in Heber City in the downtown area? No, we want to make sure that this is a community. This becomes our community living room, if you will. This is for us. We're inviting other people to join us, but the downtown revitalization is for us. This is how we enjoy all the fruits of our labor as a community. And by doing this with the CRA, that's how we're pushing this venue, if you will, forward, and giving us all a place to say, hey, we don't want to go up north, we want to stay here. Here's the downtown, here's our Main Street Park, here's all the fun stuff that we can do as a community. It's our community living area. So if we approach it that way and bring it forward with that and have this positive vibe about it, hopefully that's what the people will see. And
And
we'll
one other
release
thing that I think is really important that you guys can say differently than the county can say is, because the county, frankly, when we talk to the county, there are some things that we identified that are going to help the county out. They've got some buildings they don't know what to do with. They've got some land that it's up in the air, right? But what happens, what's interesting for the school district, what's a different story that I think is really cool is putting a parking lot and infrastructure in isn't going to bring high-density residential on Main Street. It's not going to fit. The current zoning doesn't fit it. That's not what we're looking for. It's going to bring commercial. So you've got an opportunity to increase a tax base on a section of town that doesn't increase the school district's overhead. It doesn't increase the workload. It doesn't increase the amount of students in that area, that specific area. It increases taxes without increasing spending. You're the only ones that can say that.
I get it. I mean, excuse me for being gun shy, but we just as a school district haven't been always supported in the past. And if we're gonna get involved in something like this, we want to know that the entities are unified and supported, that we're supporting each other. We haven't always been supported by other.
We know.
By your entity.
We know.
And the past is the past. I get that, and there's new people. So moving forward, we need to know and feel assured that we're going to be supported. And I mean, this is something you want from us, and I get that it's for the community as a whole. But moving forward, we need to know that
Well said.
we have each other's
And I
back.
wanted to say, very well said. That was so clearly described on really what we're doing. Thank you so much for that. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
To Kim's point, and the naysayers have, by delaying the facility that we're building right now, we strongly feel have caused the taxpayers at the high end $100 million, at the low end maybe 75 million. So look at all that tax savings by being against a second high school that was needed.
Absolutely.
And if you stick around, I believe our demographic person is going to continue to show us. I mean, it's worth your time to stick around another 15 minutes and listen to Dave's demographics talk about the growth.
All right, we will.
Wait just a sec. So, yeah, what do you
Well,
want
at
to do here?
this point, we were planning on just moving her to the regular meeting.
Oh, well,
I'll still stick around.
if you'll, it's worth the city sitting and listening to.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah,
a
come
Marcy.
come to the regular meeting.
Just
Well, really quick, Yvonne, when you start, and I appreciated your comments, cause I agree, it's for our residents now here. I mean, yeah, other people are gonna benefit, but this is for us. With that said, I feel like when you say we can ask our residents, haven't we already done that? Haven't you guys done that through Envision and through your
We have.
So
We have.
we've already heard from them saying, we don't want a failing building.
No.
We don't, you're saying, what you've heard from residents is you want something this way,
I
right?
agree,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
what we're dealing with is money speaks louder than words.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how the community is seeing it. And it's a matter of recognizing, let me just come clean with this whole situation. You were discussing with those of us who pushed, I was one of those. I will come clean and say it. I was one of those who pushed back with high school. And part of that issue was those of us who've been here for quite a few years were told back in the day that the current high school has plenty of room for growth. That was something that was understood. We've passed that. We're at a situation now where we recognize there is growth coming, like it or not. The students will need to go somewhere, and what are we going to do about it? Now, the other issue, though, is recognizing that in that process, if you want good PR from the district, this is something that helps people stay. In some cases, and I recognize, Kim, we've had this discussion before, people will push back because they're going to say, oh, you're going to raise our taxes. Oh, here we go again. And that's what I'm saying, is that the way we address that is saying this does nothing with what we're already getting as a school district. There is no loss. All we're doing is contributing back to the community in a way that is beneficial for all of us, for our students, for the youth as they hopefully stay in our valley. We've got MTech coming in, and let's be honest, if we can have that going in a direction where we have our students going into MTech and it stays within our community, we're benefiting all the way around. We're also benefiting if we build a community where we can stay together and keep the old with the new. We're doing all of that, and this is a way to address that. So, yes, there is still that stigma out there, but you'd be surprised how many have backed away from it as we've grown within the last 4 years. So, just a thought.
Well, you put yourself in our shoes, Yvonne.
Oh, I have.
So
I'm
what you're
sitting here.
What you're doing
as a
right
council
here,
member
but
now.
look at this for a second. What you're doing right here is forward thinking. The CRA is thinking outside the box. You want to, as a city council member, do something that has some vision, that has something that when it's all said and done will be a benefit to the community. And it's hard, right? And it takes some grit.
And it takes vision, and
And
it's
it
hard
takes some vision.
when all you're doing as a citizen is trying to see the vision
Exactly.
that I am barely keeping my head above water.
And that's all
So
we
that's
were,
what we tell
and,
them, is
and
that
that's
just
all we were
approach it
trying to
that
do
way.
4 years ago. We weren't trying to be crooked. We weren't trying to do whatever the narrative was. We weren't trying to do this. We're trying to do that. As a board, we sat down. We hired a third party, just like you did. And we looked at the numbers and we said, if we don't do something, we're going to be in a situation that we're in right now, and it's obvious. And my biggest finding from being in this for 8 years is the public isn't proactive. Boards want to be proactive, but the public, it's hard for them to see this until the Olympic comes and people are like, what is this mess? It's hard for them to see this until they've moved their activity to some other place. We want to be proactive. And that was the whole reason 4 or 5 years ago that we put a bond on the ballot. And it was hard for us to do that and then see elected officials publicly say, what are you guys doing? And so that's where it was frustrated. That's where I'm like, listen, whoa, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to look around the corner a little because we're elected officials, and that's what we would hope that you would do as elected officials. But it hurt. It hurt to see the editorials in the Wave. it hurt to see that all of the narratives that we were not looking out for the community. And look, hindsight's 20/20, we're genius, right? And this would be genius too, if it works and when it works. But I do think there needs to be a coming together to say, listen, we're public officials, we're all in this together. We're trying to be proactive. Public is very reactive, but for us as individuals on councils, like, it's our job to do this. It's our job to say, hey, we want to bond now, because 5 years from now, we're going to have a mess over at the high school. If we don't do something about it, it's going to be on our watch. And Main Street's on your watch, and it's messy. And so we want to help. But there does need to be some recognition that whether it was you or Heidi or other individuals,
I wasn't on the board at that, or wasn't on
Had-
council at the time, I was a citizen.
were against us to the tune of $100 million right now. I mean, that's the fact. If we want to crunch the number, we can crunch the number. It costs the
This is a
tax-
message.
It
Here's
costs
what I'm
the-
gonna say.
it costs the
It's a great
taxpayer
reminder
that
for
much.
all
And
of
here's
us.
what I'm gonna add to it. When you say that the citizens are not proactive, here's the thing that you need to understand, we need to understand as officials. And that's what I'm trying to say. If we are trying to do what Kim said, are you going to help us present this to the community? The only way we can present this to the community is understand where the community is coming from. We can't have the mentality that we're elected, this is what we need to do. That's where they shut us down at. If we say, listen, we're not trying to mess with your money, we're not trying to make this harder for you, we are trying to find a way to make this better. Communicating with our citizens is how we get that point across. So if that's how we're going to go, the first thing we have to eliminate is saying that the citizens are not proactive. They're proactive with the information that they understand, that they've been given. And the way we eliminate false information, if you will, I know that people get on Facebook and say things they shouldn't because they don't understand. Do they look into it? Tell that to the mother who's working, the single mom who's working 3 jobs just to make her ends meet and can barely find a place to live right now and is struggling finding something that she can put her and her teenage daughter in. I just had a conversation with a mother like that.
Yeah, talk about our
So-
teachers. They don't have a place to live.
Exactly. And
Over
so
30% of
that's
them
what we approach it.
commute. 30% of our employees commute.
Exactly.
So
And
Yvonne,
I understand that, and
Yvonne,
that's what I'm trying to
the
say.
proactiveness is on their own timeline, okay? So collectively speaking, the public, they're not gonna move along at the rate councils move along. They move along when it's convenient to them. They check in when it's something that means,
I agree
when
with
it's
you to a
important to
certain
them.
extent, but I think that the only way that we draw in those people who are the part-timers, if you will,
The
as far
part-timers,
as,
they check in when it's convenient.
again, let's not forget, those part-timers are the citizens who don't have the time to be proactive. We
Yeah,
share
and
what we have here and what we've just discussed, and we do it in a way
Yvonne,
that's saying we're
I'm
not
trying to tell
trying
you,
to shut us down.
I'm just trying to tell you, Yvonne, giving us a lecture on communication isn't gonna help you get our support, okay? Because we
You've already
communicate
had
just
No,
fine.
and I do, Tommy.
No,
I think
I'm thinking it's true. It's true. Okay, we're looking to make a bridge, and the facts are they are what they are. It cost $100 million that you were against the school bond, and all of your constituents that were against it, and I'll go on record for that. Okay,
My
and so
constituent.
when you come
I
in,
was a constituent.
oh, so then you're the person that caused this to be the case by having the type of reactiveness versus proactiveness. You're trying to be proactive as a CRA. We're trying to be proactive as a school board. Okay, we're coming together. It's true, but we don't need a lecture on communication. Okay,
Yeah, and
because that's subjective.
I was trying to.
Thanks, Tommy. We need to move on now with the rest of the meeting. I appreciate it. That's some good active dialogue. And Sid, do you want to just make a quick
All I
comment
can
before
say
we
is, we
close?
wanna work with you guys.
Yeah.
100%, no doubt. We wanna get this out there in the public, and we have the means to do it, and we'll do everything we can to support you.
And we want to help you too.
We do. And,
We see respect that.
Yeah.
Well, and Tom, your
We're
reminder.
on the same page, Tom.
Your reminder here is really good that as public officials, we've volunteered, we have put our names out to be in a spot where we can look differently, we can plan differently, we can communicate differently, and we can try to look as best we can. We're not gonna be perfect, but we try to look down the road and try our best to explain and communicate. It's
Hey,
a great
you know,
reminder to work together.
and
So
It's
we
a
should
great
have
reminder.
each other's back.
We should have each other's
Reminder.
back.
Well, that's the
to
thing,
work
our
together.
constituents are the same constituents. They need
It's a
communication
great
from
reminder
all of us.
to work together better.
We all gotta work together better.
We don't wanna commit to something like this and kind of be left alone and.
No, I love your idea of having a seat on the board. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Yeah, and I think the messaging part of
And
it
that's
going
Not
forward.
just
something
in-
we negotiate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
let's,
And, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up.
wrap it up.
It's crazy time. There's three big things coming that are gonna make this, absolutely will happen. This will be successful. One is the Olympics. That is coming to our valley again. The second thing is MIDA, Mayflower Mountain Resort, is on our edge. It's seriously gonna affect us either good or bad. We have to make it a good effect. And the third thing is, I will tell you, UDOT is going to build a highway reroute. I don't know if it's in 2 years or 5 or 10, but it is coming. This will be successful, and we will do everything we can to work with you guys, Tom. In fact, I just was talking to Paul Sweat today, that we're seriously, because he's asked, we're seriously looking to get land for you for free in the North Village. Jordan, that's,
Something's gotta happen. Yep.
yeah,
We
just
need
like
that.
we did it with Sawmill, we can do it with North Village too. And that's on us. And I know the growth is, you
Yeah.
don't cause any growth. People come here because of this wonderful place and we try and accommodate it. So we're on board with these things. We're here to help to work. So we'll talk later. I think our next step is really to have you guys discuss, and we can come back again and kind of talk about key agreements. They're all up for discussion, but we feel these are fair, that the increment split, a 20-year term, nothing longer. All the money that comes to the CRA is a direct payment back to the school district, not a tax payment. So I've been told by, I think, Paul, this is the way it should be done so that you have free use of those funds. It's not a tax receipt to you. It's a check written by the CRA every year for that 25%. If there is any unused tax increment, which there won't be, but if there was, it would come back to the entities after 20 years. And we had advisory committees. Let's just put you on the board. That's totally fair. And the advisory committee.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, we gotta shut it down.
Okay.
But I appreciate, no,
The
well,
25% will.
Will you send us?
We'll send you,
Well,
especially
I think we
please.
Sure.
need to continue the dialogue.
Yeah, especially please look at this one
We
and
need to
then,
come back.
and then the
Okay.
projects, please just look and then come back with questions.
Could you also share with us anything that, like, the information that Zion's is sharing with you about future valuations?
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
all
Yep.
of that
Like the
stuff.
nitty gritty details, let's
Okay.
sit down and share it.
We will make it happen when you want us to come back and chat more.
Get ready this month.
If you guys could send that to us, like,
Mhm.
I would
Yeah, I
personally
have it,
like
so-
to-
We're just running out of time.
And this
And I
is-
wanna see all of it.
And I want you guys, so this is exciting, where, we are.
It is.
Totally, it's a plan. I grew up here and there's never been a plan. We got a plan, and it's good to see. So we wanna support it, and we wanna keep this dialogue open, let everything, bygones be bygones, and let's get to work.
Thank you for your time.
So, appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll adjourn for a minute until our meeting and regroup, and thanks everybody. Anything else? Thanks.
We're still doing
Hey, we'll send this.
demographic first, right? So I can say the demographics.
Yes.
Yeah.